Hi everybody, Bob with Knivetown here. Today we're going to take a look at a couple of multi-tools. These are two excellent multi-tools. I'm going to just give you sort of the compare and contrast of them. We're not going to go through each implement of each multi-tool. That would be rather tedious, and besides there's plenty of videos out there where you can see that. But what I want to do is just give you just a comparison on some different points and what my observations have been. Certainly I don't have the last word on this, but these are just my opinions and my observations. What we're looking at here is the SwissTool RS on this side and the Leatherman Surge on this side. And you know, maybe that's not totally apples to apples, but the RS model is one of the higher end multi-tools that Victorinox sells, and the Surge is one of the high-end multi-tools that Leatherman sells. So, you know, I mean, it's not an unfair comparison. Okay, looking right at these, the first thing you'll notice is that the Victorinox, it's a much slimmer carry, and I have always liked that about the Victorinox. You get a very capable and robust multi-tool, and especially if you get this leather sheath, it's really pretty slim carry. I mean, it's pretty slim for the tool that it is. So it beats the Leatherman in that regard on the sheath. But there are a couple of things I'll give the Leatherman, though, as far as the sheath goes. This sheath, and I know that there's different sheaths you can buy for each of these tools. These are just the ones I happen to have. This particular sheath here, they're both leather, but this one here snaps. It closes with a snap, and that is personal preference with me. I appreciate the snap more than the Velcro closure that on the SwissTool sheath. I mean, it's never failed me. I'm not saying that. It's just, I don't know, I just prefer the snap above the Velcro. On this sheath also, there are side pockets, and you can have other onboard tools. In this case, with my EDC here, I have on this side, like so many people do, I have a light, flashlight, there, and I have on this side a pen. That's a Fisher Space Pen, so that'll write, you know, upside down, in grease, in the rain, in water. So to have, you know, a multi-tool, a light, and a pen with you like that, that's a good little kit, and I appreciate that possibility with this sheath as opposed to the Victorinox sheath. Of course, you know, you sacrifice a little bit of bulkiness, you know, in the carry, but I prefer this sheath over the Victorinox one. Okay, moving on to the tool. Let's take a look at the Victorinox RS. I've carried this tool for years, and I've always loved it. It's just a great tool. If you've got this tool, then you can be proud. You've made a good choice. This is an excellent tool, and I'll tell you some of the things I like about it. It is a slimmer carry. I've kind of already touched on that. It also, the thing about the Victorinox multi-tools is their construction. The action on these tools, it's just so smooth. This is polished, high polished chrome type look, and it feels like it's on ball bearings. All of the tools operate so smoothly. You know, they operate, and the lock, you know, is strong. So that's one thing that I will give the SwissTool. It's been built with a sophisticated engineering and attention to detail. It's been put together like perhaps a little bit of kind of like a jewelry almost type of a mindset. It works smooth, it's easy, and it just fits together tight, and everything is, the fit and finish is very, very good. I will give that to the SwissTool over the Leatherman, which I think is also very, very well built, but it just doesn't quite have the same level of it's hard to describe, but when I open this, I feel a much more fine-tuned piece of machinery in my hand than I do with the Leatherman. I've got to give Victorinox the edge on just construction. The other thing that I like about the SwissTool is the lock. All of the implements on this multi-tool, as well as on the Surge, they all lock in the open position. And I like the lock on this one. If you can see on the back here, each implement has its own separate lock, its own separate spring back there. And the lock release, I think, the lock release is accomplished by pinching these stippled grips, which are on each side, and pushing them rearward like that. See how that goes? And that will release the lock, and so you can fold the tool back in. And I believe, in my experience and opinion, that's a better locking system than what is on the Leatherman. So I give all of those things to the Victorinox SwissTool. Now there are some things though that I have against it. It's not a perfect tool, and one of the things that you could say about this is that the accessibility of the tools is not quite as good as the Leatherman. You can see here that it's a completely flush side. I mean, nothing sticks out. On the Leatherman, there are little notches on each tool. When the pliers is in the open position, there are little notches in there. So if I want to get out, say, the bit driver, then I just see there's that little notch right there that I just put my fingernail in and pull it out. Or if I, just, there's the awl. And again, it has that little notch there for my fingernail. It's an easy access. The Leatherman or Victorinox SwissTool, they've got nail nicks in there, but they're completely flush, so you have to kind of dig down into it, and if you haven't got a fingernail, then that'll make it even that much harder. So I think that's one issue. Admittedly, that might be a little bit of nitpicking, but that's one issue. The other thing that I don't like about the Victorinox SwissTool, and this is one of the larger things, one of the things I don't like is that when they built this tool, what they did was they just took a lot of the tools that they already put into their pocket knives and just put them into this pliers format. Like, for example, here's the scissors right here. Okay, there they are. Good pair of scissors. I've used them for a lot of things. Works very well. Nothing wrong with them. But let's take a look at the Craftsman, or perhaps the Swiss Champ. You see what I'm talking about? I mean, it's the very same pair of scissors. It's the very same pair of scissors that they put on these Victorinox pocket knives. And to me, if I'm buying a multi-tool as opposed to a pocket knife, I'm looking for something more robust. I'm looking for something that is bigger and stronger and harder working. And for me to see the exact very same tool on the multi-tool as in the pocket knives, I just, I think they could have done more. I think that's a missed opportunity. If I'm buying a multi-tool in the first place, I'm looking for a little increase in heft and robust, and I would like to think that it would have been proper to design a pair of scissors for specifically the multi-tool. A little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, a little bit stronger. That's just, and I think Leatherman has this on the SwissTool. If you take a look here, this is a Leatherman Juice. All right? very good pair of scissors. Excellent pair of scissors. In fact, I would give these scissors the edge to the Victorinox. Very good pair of scissors here. But let's take a look at the scissors on the Surge. There you go. Look at that. See, that's got its own uniquely designed pair of scissors. It's bigger, it's stronger, it's thicker, it's got a little handle on it, a little black handle piece on it there. It's a heavier duty pair of scissors. And then here, so you know, they troubled themselves to make a dedicated pair of scissors for this multi-tool, because this is a bigger, heavier, harder working tool. And that's the kind of attitude that I think Victorinox should have taken with the SwissTool. And it goes for the same thing goes for some of these other tools as well. You know, here's the there's the knife blade, and I'll show you. Here's the knife blade on the Craftsman, and here's the knife blade on the Swiss Champ. You know, I mean, it's the same blade. I mean, it's a little bit longer than the Craftsman one, but it's just about the same as the Swiss Champ. It's you know, I mean, they could have done something different, and that's like I'm saying, Leatherman did. They built a knife blade for the Surge, which is not found. I mean, it's a bigger one. It's a nice, stronger, bigger one designed for this tool, and I think it's a good choice. I like it. Speaking of the knife blade, and I'll say this is probably just my own issue, but I have never been able to return this knife blade to its original factory sharpness. And I've sharpened a lot of knife blades in my time, and I've had the most trouble with this Victorinox SwissTool RS blade. Part of the problem is I do use the clamp system, and this blade, as you can see, there is no flat spot. It's just a full flat grind from top to bottom, and it's a rather narrow blade, or thin, I mean. So, you know, I've used a stone, and I've just never been able to really resharpen it to the level of sharpness that I want. The Surge, on the other hand, it does have a flat spot up here. So if you've watched my videos for any length of time, you know I'm big on that, because that way I can use my clamp system, and I can resharpen this one to a nice hair shaving sharpness. So that to me is big, and I'm not saying that's a fault of the multi-tool. That's probably just operator error. If you can sharpen that up, then great, glad to hear it. But I've had trouble on that. The other thing that I would hold against the SwissTool is that there's no bit driver on this. Now, I know you can get SwissTools that do have a bit driver, and so maybe this isn't a fair point, but this just happens to be the SwissTool model I have, and again, it's one of the better models. This isn't. I'm not just comparing a low end to a high end. These are both high end models. This doesn't have a bit driver, but the Surge does have a bit driver. When you open it up, it's got 2 bit drivers. In there you can you've got your flat screw, flathead, and then you've got your Phillips right there. On the other side, it's the same thing except with a very small screwdriver. It's the slotted screwdriver, and then the small, tiny little Phillips screwdriver. So whichever one you need is the way you can go. And you can also buy bit driver kits, of course, which add more bits and increase the versatility. So I think that's great, and I really appreciate that that flexibility in this tool. in the Leatherman. Let's see, what else? The things about the Surge that I like better than the Victorinox, you do have one-handed opening here on this. If I want to open the knife blade, there I go, one-handed opening because of the slot, the thumb slot up there. These do lock with a liner lock, and that's a perfectly good and acceptable lock. I'm not going to say it's better than this lock. You know, it's a fine lock. I also have a serrated blade on board outside on the exterior, which the SwissTool also has a serrated blade, and it's a very good one. There it is there. You know, so they both do a good job, and they both lock open. But this one is a little bit bigger. They both have the safety front. This is more of a sheep's foot design, but they both have a locking sort of rescue blade. The Leatherman also has a exchange-a-blade system on it. It's got a saw, and the Leatherman will arrive with a little pouch here that fits in the back of the sheath. There's a little pocket in the back there, and you can exchange the blade, pull it out, and put in this file. So you've got a saw and a file. You can exchange it out. That's, I think, a plus. I don't see that capability on the Victorinox SwissTool RS. Locking again. Now, admittedly, the SwissTool is a slimmer carry. It's not as wide. Okay, so the SwissTool wins in that respect. The Leatherman is wider and a little more bulky. The Sheath, while the Sheath is definitely a little, you know, is wider and a more bulky carry, but I don't mind because of the increased functionality I get. I've got a pen, I've got a flashlight, and I've got inside, I've got I'm carrying some files in there. I also like this sheath because it provides horizontal carry. Vertical or horizontal. This Victorinox sheath is vertical only. So I like that better. You know, to me, putting it all together, you're not going to go wrong with either one of these tools. Absolutely no way. If you own a Victorinox SwissTool RS, then my hat's off to you, and you've made an excellent choice. If you own a Leatherman Surge, then again I would say the same thing. For me, I find myself going with the Leatherman Surge a little more often. I find that I'm a little more comfortable with it, with its with the way it's designed, with its the access of its tools. I find that I like the idea of having a flashlight and pen here if I want. Now, the thing about this sheath that, you know, if I buy those bit drivers, then I have to get another sheath because the bit drivers won't fit in the back of this sheath. But what I could do, I was thinking, is I could get a little tubular container, and I could take the pen out, and I could put that in there on the side and put the bits in that. And that way I wouldn't have to go all the way to the bulky nylon sheath, and that's probably what I would do. Because the nylon sheath is even thicker than this, and then that's getting too thick. But anyway, I think that both of these are excellent tools. For my money, though, personally, I'm going more often with the Leatherman Surge. I like the big thing about it with me is that I can resharpen the knife blade a lot easier than I can with the Victorinox. That's huge to me. It does have a little bit bigger pair of pliers. The head on the pliers is a little bit bigger. The thing I don't like about either tool is that these are made of 420 steel, which is a little bit soft for wire cutting. And I'll tell you what, I'll show you what I mean, because if I can zoom in on that, let me see if I can show you here. But well, I was there. Can you see right there in the wire cutting, right there where right in there? You see that little shiny piece of steel there? I mean, that notch, you can see two notches. That lower notch is supposed to be there. That upper notch is not supposed to be there. And that was from when I was trying to, so there you can get a better look of it there. I was trying to cut a piece of wire, and I squeezed down on it, and I finally did cut it, but look what it did to my wire cutters. You know, I mean, it's just a little bit soft. And even using the hard wire cutter, it's just a little soft. Now with the Leatherman is the same, is 420, just the same as the Victorinox, but you can get this with 154 cm anvils. Now, not on the Surge model, at least not yet. I've heard rumors that they are coming out with that feature for the Surge, but there are other Leatherman multi-tools where you can get a 154 cm anvil that you can put in there, you know, the teeth, and that'll make a much harder steel for clipping. So that's a good feature also. There you go. You make your choice. I'm sure that this could prompt a lot of discussion, and I'm not saying I'm right about anything. I'm just telling you what my opinions and thoughts are. So let's hear from you. Thanks a lot. I'll see you again.